Well, welcome, Rabbi Jordan Silvestri, head of school at the Robert M. Barron Academy down in Houston, Texas. If you don't mind, just to start, and for our audience, go ahead and introduce yourself. Give us a sense of either your educational journey, how you came to be where you are today, and anything else that you'd like to share sort of on the front end here.
Thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate you asking me to be part of today's podcast. So as Peter mentioned, my name is Rabbi Jordan Silvestri. I'm the head of school at Robert M. Barron Academy, which is a private Jewish day school down in Houston, Texas, who serves over 300 students from as early as 15 months all the way through 12th grade. So not exactly diapers to diplomas, but very close. And like I shared with Peter in an earlier conversation, my educational journey, or at least my journey to become a head of school, I think is not unique because I've heard so many unique ones, but definitely is a little bit off the beaten path. I would probably argue that in about 2004, when I graduated high school, that the first thing I knew I was not going to be was a teacher, and definitely not a formal educator. I really cared deeply about getting to know the inner workings and psyches of human beings and using that in a way to give back in a helping industry. After a few years abroad of study, I finished my undergraduate degree at Yeshiva University up in New York, and then went on to complete my graduate degree in social work at Hunter College. And I really delved into the field of social work, or the field of psychology, and the field of understanding the human psyche deeply over the next couple of years. I probably spent about, give or take, 8 years in the social services field. And at some point, like, something was nagging at me that I just felt like I wasn't filling a bucket or fulfilling myself in the way that I was 8 years earlier. And I had a friend, it was around COVID time. Actually, it was pre-COVID. I had a friend who said, "Hey, listen, maybe you want to like sort of transition a little bit." And he presented the idea of me getting into special education, which I guess was kind of a midway between the social services field and my field in education right now. And I did that for a couple of years, and I got hooked. And one job led to another through COVID. I got my rabbinic ordination, and that same day, I had my first interview for a head of school position, which I found fascinating on so many different levels, especially because the email that I received from the headhunting agency was the most unexpected email of, "Hey, I think we want to nominate you for this position and consider you running for this," especially since about 2 years earlier, I had a conversation with them, and I never expected them to even give me a second look about anything after that. And my wife thought I was taking on the interview as like one day in the future, like maybe this will be great experience for when I want to become a head of school, only to find out 6 months later that I got the job. And that's kind of what brought me down here into the work that we're doing today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So if you could do me a favor, take us sort of behind the curtain, if you will, at Robert Barron Academy. Describe for us, if you will, sort of the school's mission, the things that you all hold dear and close to your chest as you go about the work, like you said, each and every day.
So our school has a unique footprint in the Jewish day school world in Houston. So we are the only school, the only modern Orthodox Jewish day school in Houston. There are at least, I probably would say, 8 to 10 Jewish private day schools that support the various different Jewish denominations: conservative, reform, modern Orthodox, ultra Orthodox, or what we refer to as yeshivish, right wing, throughout the spectrum. And as a result of our school, as a result of us being one of one, we have a unique value proposition and a unique school community that we service. So we are a school that's heavily connected and founded in Jewish faith, in Jewish practice, and Jewish identity, which not only reflects our curriculum, which we have a dual curriculum. It's 50% Judaic studies, which includes anything from Bible study, Talmud, Jewish law, Jewish holidays, and everyday practices, to significant text-based studies, all the way through Jewish history, Holocaust studies, etc. And then equally as rigorous 50% of our day is dedicated to general studies, so math, science, history, English, etc. There's a heavy emphasis in our school on our Zionist foundations and beliefs, that we have a very strong, committed community to Israel and the role that the state of Israel, the land of Israel, has for the Jewish people, both the Jewish people in Israel and the diaspora, which mimics our commitment to our connection to the land of America, the United States of America, and our dedication to it as a people. And I think those concepts build out the values and mission of the school, for our students to be deeply steeped in their traditions and deeply connected to the Jewish people's role in the United States of America and abroad.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. When you think about the school's culture, just like you described, which was very lengthy, and I appreciate the detail there. I say non-negotiables of the school leader, but are there certain things that, again, as you've gone through the years, as you look forward, that you know for sure? Because again, the ever-changing world around us, whether it's related to technology, life, who knows, things are always changing. But what are those things that you all have committed to it and will continue to hold close to your chest, regardless of what's going on around you?
I think the commitment to Jewish values, to Jewish ethics, and to Jewish law is probably the constant that for us is a non-negotiable, never-changing ethos. Private schools across the country, across the world, have different values and visions. Some of them may be religious in nature, and some of them may not necessarily be. For us, when we speak about what it means to be Jewish, what that means on a daily practice level, what that means in the way we want to show up for our fellow Jews or people around the world, we believe very deeply that that the Bible guides us in all that we do and engage with. And I can't think of one conversation that we have as educators that, even if we're not stating the obvious, that navigation tool, that North Star, is always guiding us through our conversations and considerations. And even more so than that, I think it also speaks to how we position the role of Jewish education, which from my perspective is not just a one side of that two dual-sided curriculum coin. We deeply believe that God created knowledge across the board. Some of it was Jewish originated, and some was originated from people outside of the Jewish faith and the Jewish communities. And there's value to those resources and to those sources of knowledge as they support and as they strengthen our religious commitments. So we want our students to be very deeply committed to education, very deeply committed to curiosity, exploration, and research as a means to step into their Jewish identity, to deepen their Jewish identity, and to get to a place that when they graduate, that they are really taking these tenets and building upon them in their post-high school careers.
Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. Shifting slightly, you talked about, the students choosing. You talked earlier about the value proposition that you all offer to families, to students. I just want to shift now to thinking about parents. I know when I reached out initially, I thought about this idea of sort of the quote quiet shift in education, but I want to ask you first, sort of, what are some of the reasons, and I guess it'll relate to what you've already said to a certain extent, but there are choices when families go out there into this landscape of independent schools, and even within the context, like you said, of Jewish schools in the Houston area. So what have parents said to you over the years of why they're choosing you all, and/or separate from that, what are some of the specific things maybe that they're looking for in a school these days, whether or not they chose you or not?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that we have a very unique community because of who we are and how we're placed in regard to the landscapes of Jewish day schools in Houston. If you were to look at the East Coast and West Coast Jewish day schools, you would probably see a more homogeneous grouping of students going to schools. You would see students that are, from our conservative community going to conservative schools, Reform, Orthodox, etc. Our school really attracts a wide stroke of students from different communities and from different households. What the common thread that connects each and every single one of them is that commitment to a tight-knit community that has shared values as their guiding light. We strongly invest in who we are as a school, not to just be the flavor of each family, and every admissions session should be, how do we convince this family that we're right for them, as opposed to saying, let's lean into and let's feel proud unapologetically of who we are, and find spaces for families to be able to come and join and be part of it. When families are looking for us or looking at our educational models, I think they're looking at the products of our students. How do they impact the community, even when they're still students in middle and high school? How are they impacting the community at large when they graduate based on the experiences and those values that we've instilled in them? They're looking at the different types of things that kids are doing. There's a stark difference in our student population and how they're engaging just on a social level, as opposed to like a community or, giving back perspective. I think it's a major factor. And I think that they also gravitate to us living and practicing our values. So, you talked about the changes in educational shifts that are taking place. And I would imagine that probably in any time frame, any decade, we probably could say that there's educational shifts. They're always happening, right? They're just happening in different spaces. And I know nowadays everyone's talking about social media, electronics, cell phones. The shift for us in that space when we made decisions on how we were going to engage and step into those spaces, we did it as much from an educational perspective as it was from a values perspective within the Jewish framework. And I think people really gravitate towards schools that have really instilled values because it brings meaning to them. It brings connection, relationship, and community in a way that perhaps maybe they don't have elsewhere.
Yeah, no, that's great. Excuse me. I want to jump that phrase you just used, sort of educational perspective. And so I guess my question is this. You mentioned earlier 50% of the Judaic studies, 50% general studies. How do you go about balancing the real world? Because like you said, they're going to leave you all after 12th grade. And so I guess, how do you balance sort of the need to prepare them to leave you all, and they're going to go to whatever university or institution they go to, but how do you balance sort of the academic rigor, the college prep and or career prep, while also maintaining those non-negotiables that you talked about earlier?
I think that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity that schools have in connecting and engaging with their student body, right? You have your bread and butter, you have your classes and your educational offerings and your core curriculums that you're going to offer to your students. So it may be that because we have a dual curriculum, we're going to have to make some different decisions about how many offerings we have in a certain space versus the school down the block that has every offering you can ask for. And we recognize that that by making choices, and in this space, it's not making choices always of what to do. It's actually making choices of what not to do. But there's a nuanced shift in that. And I think that while it does limit us, and sometimes that means families who really need X or really need Y, they really need a big music program, or they really need a big drama program, and our programs aren't as big as other schools, that might be the piece that moves them to decide, hey, this is not for me. However, what they are choosing to not invest in or engage in or take part of is that investment that you just mentioned. Our school is small in numbers and big in stature. We have a small student body. We're not looking to be a 800, 1,000 person school. We are looking to grow. We are looking to get to whatever that magic sweet spot number is for all the pieces of the puzzle to work in tandem. And we're trying to do that while still maintaining a very meaningful student to teacher ratio that creates opportunities for our students to have connections with every single person. And I say that, like, you go to a school that's, a big school, and all of a sudden you're never talking to the head of school. They're like on a pedestal somewhere in their office, wherever that is. I have students sometimes in my office way too much, and not because they're in trouble, because we're talking about meaningful conversations
for sure.
In building and investing in our community. And I think that speaks to the way that we try to design our constructs in our school to navigate, to guide our students in an intimate, individualized way.
Yeah, no, that's great. Jordan, I like to ask this question of folks that I've been speaking with. For your context, for your school, define student success for us.
We want our students to find what brings them value and meaning, and connect to that in a deep manner that they can use it to bring back to the community that they're part of. If that, we would love them to be part of the Houston Jewish community. And we also know that they're going to go out to college and they might meet their spouse or get a job somewhere outside of Houston, and even outside of the country, and that might pull them away. We want their time here to be where those opportunities to explore different things that bring them meaning, to explore their values, and how it speaks to them individually in a safe environment, in an environment where they can fail forward, and that it leads them to making decisions about what their post-high school experiences look like. We're trending at 95% of our graduating students spending at least a year, if not multiple years, doing extended Judaic studies study in Israel, followed by 100% of our students, going to universities across the country and now abroad as well to continue their education.
Sure.
And we want that to be not just like, okay, college is important. It's the pathway to get to grad school or to get a great job or a great career or whatever. We want it to be something that builds on that foundational meaning that they established here.
Yep. No, for sure. I think it's fascinating. Every school has its own context and defines success differently. So I appreciate you diving into that. Let's shift very quickly to the teachers and the staff at your school. Again, as a school leader, I feel like they're the ones who oftentimes, overlooked is the wrong word, but I feel like their day-to-day work is where the real magic happens. So talk to me about the teachers there. How do you go out and attract really great teachers? Obviously, again, it's a very specific context that you have there. So how are you finding great teachers? What are you doing to support them? And ultimately, what does that look like at your school?
So I think you're 100% correct. The teachers are where, as you said, the magic happens. They're the ones who have the most significant touch points with students across the school week, month, and year. And for us, we have three divisions: our early childhood, our lower school, and our upper school, which includes middle and high, coupled with the different curriculums that we're teaching. We have a unique challenge of finding the right types of teachers who are going to build and support and nurture the culture and the community that we're trying to create. I think the first and foremost, the investment we make in our teachers and in the culture that our teachers are steeped in is probably the single most important area of focus that we as a school can invest in order to ensure both their health, their happiness, and their growth that will eventually lead to opportunities to hire equally as talented and excellent teachers. That happens in a couple of different ways. Having unbelievable, dedicated, supportive principals and educational leaders in our school who are going to be the ones who are going to create those spaces, give our teachers the opportunity to really make an impact. Just like we are small in number from a student perspective, we're not necessarily large in number from a staffing perspective. However, we have significantly large impacts that our staff are able to be part of. I think, if I'm not mistaken, at this point, every single division of our school has, in the last couple of years, including this year, spent tremendous amount of time with their teachers building and designing the curriculum that our students are going to experience in the future. It's not just a select few that get to be part of that process. It's the whole. And therefore, teachers are invested in the education that they chose to design and to adopt for our students to succeed and excel. Being able to give back and to create meaningful opportunities for our parent body and our leadership and our board to show appreciation and express those feelings of gratitude to our teachers is really important to creating opportunities for them to feel part of the larger mission and what we're trying to build. There's a tremendous amount of investment that goes in there. And that mimics sort of the investment we're giving to our students. We want to be a school that has high standards and high support. We don't want to, we want to push ourselves to reach those high standards. And we want to make sure our teachers and our students alike know that there are people in their corner there to support them reaching those standards in what is best for them along the way. And we hope that in turn, will allow us to have a really positive story and narrative in our communities at large. And that helps us, through word of mouth and other resources, be able to recruit and retain really quality educators.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. Just the last couple of things before I let you go. Would love to know, sort of looking ahead, whether it's sort of towards the rest of this year, beyond, one or two things that really get you sort of most excited as you think about the future of this school. That's one. Number two, any advice that you would give to either aspiring school leaders and or anybody out there thinking about, or maybe who's already a school leader, but just advice in general. And then lastly, again, last word, anything else that you want us to know about you, your school, a chance to do one final plug before I let you go.
Sure, sure. So things that are like really exciting and that are getting me pumped for the rest of this year. I think there are two things that I've been thinking a lot about lately. This is my fourth year as head of school at Robert M. Barron Academy. And what that means is that this is the first graduating class. We spent all 4 years of their high school together. And for me, it's bittersweet. We only have 6 more months or so left together. But we've really forged a strong relationship that is genuinely steeped in care and dedication to the school, to their journey, to their next steps. And I'm really proud of who each of these students have become, and I'm really proud of what they're going to become as they now take these next steps to decide their future. Coupled with that, we adopted a strategic plan last year, and it's a plan that I kind of was envisioning and dreaming about for the 3 years up until adoption. And this year is, where we get to put it into full force and full effect. And what that has been meaning for the last year plus, because we started a little bit of it prior to its adoption, has been to revamp a lot of our educational curriculum throughout all our divisions. And we're finally seeing some of the fruits of that labor. We're hitting some marks that we recognized really needed to be given some more attention to, so that we can support our students now and in the future. So those are the two things that are really exciting that have been on top of mind. As you ask the question of like, what advice do I have for either aspiring or current school leaders? I think there is a lot of, I don't know if the right word is chatter, but I would probably say there is a camp of educational leaders that get to a space or a position or a level in leadership, and there is a sense of staleness that comes about in their pursuit of education for themselves, growing in their ability to do hard things, leading a team and navigating a school through challenging times, whatever it may be. And I really believe that it is so critical for school leaders at any level to model what it actually means to be a lifelong learner, and to model what it means to be vulnerable and open in a way that humanizes you and also breaks down barriers that prevent connection with your constituents, whether they be your teachers, your parents, your student body, your community at large. I'm disheartened when I see it. I'm disheartened when it comes at the cost of student success and growth and progress. And I really encourage people to take the opportunity to step into that learning mindset and really consider what and how they could do that on a daily basis. I oftentimes struggle with how I show up in spaces and how that is perceived by different constituents. Every single day, I start my day very early. But by the time I get to school, which is usually about 2 hours before school starts each day, by the time that I have a routine where I'm reading, I'm journaling, I'm engaged in a pursuit before my day even starts. Regardless of what comes up for me, I know that I've invested in that image that I want for our student body and for our leaders, and that I've also invested in taking care of myself at the same time. So I encourage people to really find what works for them, right, and to make it a habit of mind and habit of time. And I guess I would say the last plug for RMBA, for Robert M. Barron Academy, I think the landscape of education across the nation is changing drastically. School choice or school vouchers, whatever term you want to use, and taking away all the political elements that it connects to, has really changed the landscape of how affordable private day school education can be. and will be in the years to come, coupled with changes in the world and the different spaces and areas that Jewish communities have been the strongest, that have been perhaps impacted, and not necessarily for the better, but because of different political landscape changes, because of the challenges with anti-Semitism and the like that has spread. Houston has become, or is becoming, a very attractive spot for Jewish day schools. And I think that Jewish families to go to communities and to invest in communities that are building, growing, and in their day schools. There is so many opportunities for families here in Houston and here at Robert M. Barrett Academy for support financially, for scholarships, for opportunities to be part of our school and our community. And I encourage people to check out our new website, barronacademy.org, BEREN academy.org. That really highlights and shows what we are doing as a whole. As we finalize that website, I hope that it really expresses what it means to be part of our community and what it could mean for you and your children.
Rabbi Jordan Silvestri, head of school, Robert M. Barron Academy in Houston. Thank you again for your time, sir, and I will wish you well.
Thanks so much, Peter. I appreciate it.
All right. Enjoy your day.
You too.